I'm Jennifer Page, and you're watching Eclectic Arts Media.
I hope all my experiences are like this. I mean, I've been blessed thus far with all the projects, especially this one, to have such an amazing time shooting it. I mean, apparently I do darkness and death really well, so I don't tell happy stories yet.
When I did the vocals for the chorus of the Phantom of the Opera.
Hello!
Hi, Chloe. How are you?
I'm so good. How are you?
I'm doing really good.
A lot of times, if you're like in the pit as a 410 person, that is not fun. Okay.
Someone was just leaving the bar with a beer, and then there was this opening, and I just felt myself climbing onto the bar.
Can you let us do that? Like, absolutely not.
It feels kind of like we were laughing about it last night, a family band in a way, because, and that's really exciting as well, because, it feels a little bit more like home when you're on tour and stuff.
And even the thought of it seemed insane, but I thought, yeah, maybe let's give it a go.
I wanted to look exactly like they looked on the cover with their big permed hair and their chokers, and they were so badass and so cool.
It weighs probably twice as much as I do.
And the moment I stepped into the ring, I knew that that's what I wanted to do.
24 years I've been wearing school girl uniform.
And you're watching Eclectic Arts Media.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I'm Mark Sugiyama from Eclectic Arts Media, based here in Seattle, Washington. And thank you so much for joining me on this Wednesday, Hump Day, the 8th of May, 2024. And a few things I'd like to go over. First, I'd like to thank Sky Blue for joining me on this past Friday. It was great catching up with her. We had done an interview a little over a year and a half ago, so there's plenty to discuss. And she's always got a great personality, total delight, and something where with what she's known for, hopefully we get a chance to kind of show all the other aspects of what I guess of her caliber does on a day-to-day basis, that they're human. They get up and eat breakfast and maybe go work out, or the day we did it, she had allergies from the cherry trees in New York and things of that nature. So it was great having her. And I do have a couple of other live stream interviews getting scheduled as we speak. Once those are confirmed, if you follow me as Eclectic Arts Media, one word, on Instagram, that's where I will post when they actually are, the day and time. And some of that information migrates over to other social media platforms. If this is your first time joining me on my YouTube channel, if you could do me a huge favor, please hit the subscribe button as well as the notification bell. Any kind of interaction with any of the parts of the channel really help me. And for some reason, I just found out that the Twitch stream is not working today for this part 2 interview that we're doing. And I've never had any issues other than when I have this guest. And I actually changed the title in case there was something with the wording that was not flying by with the Twitch people. But for whatever reason, we're strictly on YouTube today. So just letting people know, if they go, hey, how come I can't get to Twitch, and you had to come over to YouTube. That's out of my control. It just happened when I went live today. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to things. It's beautiful here in the Northwest, and it's supposed to feel much like spring, maybe a little dash of summer later, a couple of days from now. Locally, I'd like to let people know that the Edmonds Driftwood Players have a really great play going on. I just reviewed it last week, and so it just opened on this past Friday. So they got a few more weekends left of that. It's really worth your time. They're doing some great things out in Edmonds. And then if you're into concerts, the 10th anniversary of Thunder Pussy is this Friday at Benaroya Hall. They're collaborating with the Seattle Symphony. So I'm really interested to see how this is going to work. They are very much to me, a rock band with 70s and 80s type influences in their music. And it's hard to believe it's been 10 years, but they're going to be working with the Seattle Symphony. So they have a brand new album. Their sophomore album is coming out on Friday called West. And so they got a big party basically that they're going to be doing at the Benaroya Hall downtown Seattle. So if you happen to see me there, you can say hi. I'll be just kind of floating around. I am not working that show. I won't be doing any kind of photography or any kind of reviewing of that. I'll just be there purely as a fan. And I'm looking forward to that. And then the 60th anniversary of the Seattle Opera I think it was yesterday or today, but their big concert and gala is this Saturday. The concert starts at 4 p.m. So they're going to be doing 2 hours of just some fan favorite songs with some of the best opera singers in the world that they've had come through the doors, which has been many in 60 years. They're going to be singing songs, and then they're going to be doing their big gala and fundraiser that evening. I'll be there for the concert portion, so I'm looking forward to that. As two of my favorite singers will be singing some tunes, which I think will probably be their signature songs. And I believe there's still some tickets available for the concert part, and maybe even the fundraising part. I'm not sure, but I don't have money, so I can't really help with the fundraising part, but I'm looking forward to the concert. And of course, we have Mother's Day here in America on Sunday as well. So happy early Mother's Day to all the moms out there. All right, my guest today first joined me last month, April. We touched on his Lucha Libre background as well as his love of music. We only scratched the surface with that interview, so he was kind enough to return today for a part 2. Please welcome back to the Eclectic Arts Media Virtual Studio, Mr. Halcon Negro.
Hello, hello. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm super excited to be here again with you and share more of the life and times.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's weird. When I was looking back to see when the first one was, I'm like, that was almost a month ago. It was
Yes.
Early April.
And I forgot. So if I could, it was April 12th, which was my older brother's birthday. And I forgot to wish him a happy birthday. So I'd like to do that now if I could. Happy birthday, big brother. Hope you had a great one.
There you go. And yeah, there's things that definitely happened for me after the fact. And I just realized that I need to take a quick second and thank Milo, who gave me a generous tip for my channel. And he's actually tipped before. So folks, if you really like what we're doing here and what I've been doing with Eclectic Arts Media, there's a PayPal me and a Venmo right in every description of the video. So I'm kind of getting absent-minded the older I get, I think, about some of these details.
Oh, yeah.
It's so weird because sometimes, at least for me, I used to think that certain things I was adamant, no, this is exactly what happened. It was this day, this time, this band that I saw or something. And then nowadays I'm maybe like 80% sure because there's this other piece of in the back of my head, like, are you sure that's when it was? And I'll go back and look like, oh man, I was wrong. That's the wrong year or whatever.
The older you get, the more the memories just start to mesh together into one big, block.
Absolutely. And I'm kind of like, at least I think as long as I'm self-aware of that fact that, hey, don't sit there and like die on that hill because you might actually die on that hill.
Oh, yeah.
But as we were talking pre-show and also during the first interview that we did, you were mentioning that what you had coming up on the 3rd and 4th of May, you had 2 big matches coming up, one at San Juan Casino and one was down in Portland. So let's talk about the show that was at San Juan on the 3rd. How was your match and how did that whole show go?
Oh, that show was amazing. So I believe this is the 3rd year in a row that we've been at Snoqualmie Casino for a Cinco de Mayo weekend. And every time it's a sellout. It's, an amazing crowd. They have the taco vendors, lots of tequila flowing, amazing matches. The people always have a great time. They're eating, drinking, watching high-flying luchadores. And it was just a really amazing time. I love it. I love it there every time.
Cool. And who did you have your match with?
So it was me and Thick Rick teaming up, going against La Piranha and Brian Cook. And those guys are, a little bigger than me and Rick were, but me and Rick used our speed, our agility, and took them down. But they didn't go down without a fight. Piranha used his teeth. He almost bit off my finger. I mean, these guys are like rule breakers. They'll do anything to win. But in the end, good triumphed.
All right. Well, I mean, the finger part doesn't sound good, but the rest of it sounds good.
Pretty painful. Let me tell you. I mean, if you've never had your fingers bitten, I don't suggest it.
Yeah, hopefully I don't ever experience that. But It brings up an interesting point that when you have a tag team match like that versus a singles match, what are some of the changes, or not maybe even changes, some kind of like maybe your approach to those type of matches? Is there a difference for you?
Well, when I'm in a tag team match, I think me and my partner, what we'll look at is, who's best suited to start against who. And, we want to look at our strengths and, our potential weaknesses and put them together so we, work best as a team. Rick is a powerhouse. He's, thick. That's where he got the nickname, Thick Rick. But he's like, you know, just a little ball of muscle. And so we use his power and my speed, and you put it together, you got a pretty dynamic combination.
Okay, and I've been watching a lot of like WWE biographies and things of that nature, and they talk about like during the matches, at least for those folks, during the matches, how someone's typically kind of leading it in terms of saying like what to do and what not to do, especially if it's like a disparity between someone who's like newer to the business and someone who's been around for a long time. Are you guys kind of saying things to each other as you're doing the match about like, let's do this spot, or let's get up to the top rope, or I'll throw you outside here?
Typically, yeah. So, I mean, I'll tell my partner, hey, let's, pick this guy up and let's, send him here. We'll do this double move, and usually the more experienced person will sort of guide it, and the younger person will, follow, take the lead from the older vet.
Okay, and with we're kind of talking about this a little bit. One thing that yourself and probably most of the wrestlers probably like watching, especially if they get to watch a match back, like through video or something, is seeing the crowd reactions. Things that they can't constantly see in the moment, they can see it later when they look back. What were some of the reactions like that you happen to see either during it or afterward?
Oh yeah. So for my style is high flying, and every time I climb to the top rope, I can do a quick stand and I see the crowd, and almost every time they whip their cameras out, their phones out, and put their cameras up in the air, and they're like, "This guy's getting ready to fly, let's capture it." And then when you watch the video back, you can see their jaws hit the floor because they're like, "Oh my God, I can't believe this guy is flying out there like this." And that's what's really, amazing to me is I like creating those moments for the fans out there.
Yeah, I was thinking about one of the photos that I don't have in my system here that you had sent me to possibly use. I was looking at it the other day, and I'm like, and I didn't really look at the crowd, but you can see this one lady's face was kind of like, like
Oh yeah.
that she was gonna get hit.
Oh yeah, because so in Lucha, I mean, we are flying. I mean, we're flying right to the crowd's feet sometimes, right on the crowd sometimes, so they got to get out of the way. Um, the one where I showed you where I was on the stage, I landed right in front of, a fan, like right in front of her. And yeah, I mean, it was great though, because she whipped out the camera and, got an amazing video of me leaping off the stage. So, the fans, when they come to a Lucha Libre show, they know that they're going to be part of the action. And I think that's one of the things that attracts them to our shows.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I know when I first started going to Lucha Libre Volcanica shows, that when I was bringing new people to me, especially people that really weren't familiar with wrestling in general, I had to basically warn them that you need to be paying attention. Don't be talking to me the whole time when the match is going on, because if they do this signal to you need to get out of the way.
It's either get out of the way or get prepared to get landed on. But that interaction is what's really great. When I first started, I wore a mask with that had the open mouth, open nose, and every time I would fly out, a fan would hand me a beer or something, and it'd be great to just, like I would take a swig of the beer and, toast the crowd, and they'd love it. And then, we'd get back in and, keep it going. But that interaction with the Lucha Libre fans is, what makes it really amazing.
Yeah, I totally agree. And for anyone out there that hasn't had a chance to see a Lucha Libre match or an event before, Yeah, what Halcon's talking about. It's so interactive, and that's what makes it so fun because you feel like you're part of the show. And sometimes, yeah, you actually could become part of the show if they land on you if you're not paying attention or what have you. And it's not like going to like a theater play or something where they're on the stage and you're just kind of here in the audience. Like, no, they become part of you, and but kind of vice versa. So that's what's really fun about it.
Yeah, last year, a great example of it. My brother flew up here and he had an opportunity to see me wrestle. And, middle of the match, me and my opponent were wrestling on the outside. And I just took the opportunity. My brother was right there. And so I just took the opportunity. I thought, let's get him involved. And I said, get up, get up, get up. Hold this guy for me. And it was a great moment. My brother's holding my opponent, and I gave him a good smack around, and it's like we were kids again. Just getting to play out there.
That's cool. Yeah, no, and I think just all like you're saying, all the fans around it, they enjoy watching you do that with your brother and pulling somebody into the match and the storyline.
Oh yeah. That's like I said, that's what makes it so amazing. The fans are they are as big a part of the show as the wrestlers. So.
Yeah, and for folks, if you've never been to a match or an event, I remember one of them. I was towards the back section of the rows, and even there, you're not safe.
Oh yeah, it definitely depends. So if you're talking about the old Evolve gym, I've had guys, they've thrown me like 10 rows deep into the chairs. They've just taken me and chucked me out. And it's like all the fans scatter, and I just, crashed into a pile of folding chairs.
Yeah, that's exactly what I remember because the front 3 rows immediately dispersed.
Yeah.
The ones behind us started to disperse when they kind of saw the wrestler coming. Then some of these people in the back thought they didn't have to move, and it was like, well, I guess you're going down. Or you're gonna have a chair land on your leg, or you're gonna have something.
Oh yeah, I mean it can get wild. It can get wild depending on just what's going on and who's in the ring, and if those rudos are that mad at you, they'll use everything they can to beat you down.
Yeah, and and this is true of like anything that's live. When the crowd's way into it, and I've definitely been at some of the matches where the crowd is so hot. I mean, they are just booing and they're cheering as hard as they can. And then if the match is being told the right way, where it's up and down, we don't know who's going to win, and you get sucked into it that much more with the psychology of the match. That there's really nothing better when it's just like this whole room is just like ah.
Oh yeah, and I've been on both sides to where the crowd is cheering me on, and then I've been on the opposite where the crowd is cheering on the Rudo, the bad guy, to keep beating me down, and they want more and more and more. And in my head, I'm like, please, no, 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 no. But that's how it goes sometimes.
Yeah, I can only imagine that the crowd's going to be kind of finicky at times, depending on what's going on in the ring, and also just their mood sometimes.
Oh yeah, but that's the best thing about Lucha Libre is the fans tell you what they want, and you can draw that emotion out of them and either give them more of what they want or really upset them and take it away.
Exactly, and I'm thinking about times when some of the matches that I saw that, which is probably true of like any style of professional wrestling. The worst thing for you is when you get no reaction. If the crowd is indifferent to your character, if you're a good guy or a bad guy, and they're just kind of like, you're kind of dead at that point because you want that reaction out of them.
Oh yeah, there's nothing worse than if you go out there and the crowd is silent because right then they're not entertained and they could care less about what's going on. So every time it's you got to go out there, you got to give it your all. Most of the Lucha Libre crowds, I mean, the fans love Lucha so much, and I think what helps us a lot is our mask, our costume. It just looks larger than life right when we hit the stage, and that really just gets the people going right away, right when they see us.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I'm thinking back to the first Lucha Libre card that I saw, and that whole mystique, that kind of superhero thing, especially for Lucha, if you have a mask on, there's the mysteries there. We don't know what you look like, and you keep that going, and it really becomes, even before you've even done anything, any kind of spot in the ring, it's like you're already presenting out this certain vibe to the audience. And then once you start, doing the moves and arm drags and going off the top rope and everything else, it just gets that much more amped up. And it's like, wow, this is really something I've never seen before.
Yeah, and it just builds and builds and builds, and then the big flying happens, and it's, by that time the crowd is just, on edge, like just they can't believe what's happening.
Yeah, there's it builds to a frenzy, and I think I just had this memory come back to me about I brought my aunt and uncle to one of the shows at Evolve, and my uncle seemed to really like it. My aunt liked it until she found out some of the stuff, like there was some chair shots. I think there was a table involved in one of the matches, and she thought somehow that stuff was all fake. And I'm like, well, no, they're getting the body weight's going to slam through that table and it's going to crack. And she doesn't like violence. So I probably should have warned her, like, hey, this is some stuff that happens in, depending on the match and what's going on. So initially she thought it was kind of fun because she didn't think it was real. It's like, well, no, that's an actual chair. That's not some sort of, prop thing that they brought in to smack over someone's head or whatever, or on the back. It's a folding chair.
It's all real and it's all painful.
I was just gonna say that for yourself, having wrestled so many matches, so even like and we'll talk about the one that you had on Saturday in Portland, but so like, let's say the one that you just did at Snoqualmie last Friday, do you feel it the next day?
I do, and part of that is my age as well, but I feel really, really healthy right now. I rolled my ankle just a quick little, bent to the side. But other than that, I mean, I feel fine. Little teeth marks on the hand, but, so like things like that. But just the pounding that your body takes, I mean, you're going to feel it. But I really go out of my way to make sure that I'm in the best condition possible. I'm always taking care of my body, always eating right, exercising, trying to make sure I'm as strong as I can be so that my body's prepared to take that kind of pounding. Just like, a football player, basketball player, any kind of sport, I take care of myself the right way because I know what I'm putting my body through. So I'm always preparing it for it to where I can take it, recover and get ready to do it again.
Okay. All right. That makes sense.
But I remember when I was a kid, one of my favorite quarterbacks was John Elway. And as he got older, he used to say, he'd play a game on Sunday and he'd be ready to go on Monday. But then as he got older, he was like, I'll play a game of football on Sunday. I'm not ready to go until that next Sunday. So like as you do get older, it does take a little while longer for your body to recover. But, as long as you do the right things, take care of yourself, it's not too bad.
Okay. Yeah. And that makes sense. I mean, father time, sneaks up on everybody. And I know like some of speaking of football, I mean, some of the football players that I've heard on the radio talk about how they know what Monday's like for them. It's like, it comes with the territory basically about being certain level of soreness, trying to sometimes kind of hard to get out of bed depending on like what happened the game before. And then as you just mentioned, if you add age into that, then it becomes that much longer to recover.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just, like I said, doing the right things, taking care of yourself, being smart, and, like the human body is the most perfect machine ever created, so as long as you take care of it, it's going to take care of you.
I like that. There we go. And so let's kind of move into so you were wrestling last Friday and then you drove down to Portland for Saturday's match, and you were kind of telling me that was quite an honor of who you were wrestling and how that went. So can you kind of let the viewers know?
Oh yeah, Saturday night I wrestled Mecha Wolf, who is an international superstar, huge legend in lucha libre. Um, and it was just such an amazing honor to be in the ring with him, and it was a tremendous learning experience, and I was just amazed. I was amazed by his power, his agility, his size, and I gave it my all. Like I literally like threw everything I could at him, like high flying moves, chairs, everything I could. And I learned my lesson. He he outpowered me and he gave me a good beat down, and he walked away with the win. But I'll tell you, I was really proud of my effort that I put in against him. And it was just like I said, like it was an honor to be in the ring with him. And to compete.
Yeah, that's awesome when you get a chance. We were talking about this pre-show, when you're in the ring with somebody that is so professional and is giving you not only some accolades, but maybe like a few pointers here and there after the match of like some things. Hey man, you did really, really well. Maybe if you do this and kind of let it breathe a little bit more or something of that nature. It's like, wow.
Oh yeah, and that was the great thing about him. So he gave me some great constructive criticism, some praise, and so coming from him, it's priceless. It made me feel so good. And a lot of my buddies were there, and they gave me some congratulations, and so it was just really an amazing experience. And I mean, I was just happy to be in there, happy to compete with him, and like I said, just amazed by his power and agility. And if you go on my Facebook and you can see some quick clips of us, and he's just like, he is really a phenomenal athlete.
When you're talking about his size and strength and speed and agility, it reminds me a little bit of what I'd heard for the early days when wrestlers were first encountering Brock Lesnar. They were saying, this dude's size. They would see him, think, oh, he's going to be just kind of lumbering or whatever. And he was so quick that they're like, holy crap, he moves like somebody who's 5'5" or whatever.
Oh yeah, and that just tells you the level of athlete that these guys are. The skill that they have, the time that they put into everything that they do. He was just as agile, if not more, than I was, and he's like way bigger than me. And so that's what I thought. Like going into the match, I thought, okay, well, I can use my high flying and my quickness and get around him. He was just as quick as me and twice as strong. So, but I gave it my all. I gave it my best. He ended up suplexing me from the top rope onto a pile of chairs, and I mean, I'll tell you, it was a great experience. So.
Yeah, that's suplexed onto a bunch of chairs.
Oh yeah, from the very top, both standing on the top rope, up and over.
Wow. Again, anytime I've watched any kind of wrestling matches of any kind, seeing the bumps and the spots that wrestlers do and what that's doing to their body, and just to entertain the fans. I mean, the things that they put themselves through, including yourself, it's like, man, that's just that's where my respect and wrestling for professionals just goes up and up and up, because I'm like, who else does that? I mean, for entertainment's point, if you're doing sports, it's strictly for sports stuff. You get the entertainment from watching what they're doing. But like Michael Jordan doesn't have to sit there and try to entertain you. He's just entertained by what he does or did.
Oh yeah.
With wrestling, you have to entertain. That's part of your job. And taking those bumps is man.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, and it's sort of evolved a lot over the years to where, I think the fans expect more and they want more, and it's just all whatever you're willing to do, and like you said, individually, what you're willing to put your body through. Um, so on the like looking at it from his point of view, I think it's great that that's what he felt he had to do to get the win. Because like no matter what he did, I kept getting up, I kept coming back. So I mean, that was the final shot that put me down for good, and so it makes me feel good that it took that level to keep me down.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That he was trying everything that he had in his arsenal, and it wasn't enough. And so, man, this guy keeps getting back up. So I'm gonna have to do something special to knock him out, basically, and win this match. Man,
like Rocky Balboa, keep coming back.
Yeah, that's makes me, just like when I talked with you last month, it makes me itch to try to catch some wrestling. And one thing, and we're going to kind of talk about some other things that we didn't get a chance to last time, but I know, and maybe you don't know at this point, maybe it's too early, but what's coming up for you like into the summer? Because I know last summer there was quite a few opportunities for people to catch lucha.
Yeah, we have a lot of shows lined up throughout the summer. I don't have them all in front of me right now, but I will tell you a really great one that's coming up that is free is on May 24th. And we do this one at the University of Washington at the Seattle campus. And that one is an amazing show. We're going to put the ring right in the red square. So all the students are going to be able to come, and that one is a great one. We did it 2 years ago, and the crowd was awesome. I felt like the whole student body was there, but that one is going to be a good one.
Okay, yeah, no, that sounds. I just wrote down the date so that I would know, because I'm like, I want to catch some matches because I haven't been to wrestling in a while, and I know, I especially like the ones where it's like really lucha focused, and there's nothing to take away from like some Kwanga Casino or anything, but that's like a whole event for Cinco de Mayo weekend and all that. But if there's something where I was like, okay, here's the wrestlers, or at least some of them I recognize, the people that are there are kind of clearly lucha fans, and they're not there for maybe the other extraneous things. They're there for the wrestling first.
So the one here at UW, it's put on by the Latin. They have a Latin club, and so they're the host, and it's Volcanica, Lucha Libre Volcanica. So it's gonna be a lucha show, and the students, they went wild for it the last time we were there. It was really great. I was actually surprised because I thought, oh, I don't know, like how is the college environment gonna be, but those kids were ready. They were ready to see us fly. And then as soon as we took off, like, over the top, they just lost their minds. A bunch of young kids going crazy.
That's cool. I can see how that could go either way, but it went the right way in terms of the energy of college students. So like,
yeah, they were ready for more. They were like, get them.
I love it when some of the matches I've seen in the past, when you have, like could be like an 8-year-old, they're yelling at that wrestler, either to get up or someone else that maybe they do like, they were really rooting for them to get back in the ring and take that guy down, and that's part of the fun of it. Again, like we were talking earlier, for people that haven't been to a lucha match or a card, of getting involved with the match. If you're just kind of spectating from the sidelines, get closer to it, or try to get caught up in it. Then you'll have more fun.
Yeah, and that's what's great about LLV. They always, like, the fans are right there by the ring. We're flying out. We're rolling into their feet, or like pushing into them a little, and getting the crowd involved. Like, hold this guy. Let me give him a chop. And sometimes we'll let the fans do it. We'll hold the other wrestler and say, give this guy, give it to him. So,
I don't know who that was, but I just saw something yesterday on TV, and they gave a chop to like someone who's not a wrestler, just a regular person. It's like a friend of theirs or whatever. And boy, you could see the handprint on that guy's chest.
I'll tell you this, Mecha Wolf, he gave me a chop. I don't think I've ever been hit as hard in my entire life. Like I felt my soul leave my body.
I totally believe it. And see, that's the thing. Like if you get multiple chops in a row, like, oh man.
Oh, it was brutal. It was brutal. Let me tell you. I think, I can't even remember now if it was just 2 or 3, but all I know is like my body wasn't present anymore.
See, and this is something, again, if you're watching this and you're not maybe a wrestling fan or just kind of curious about wrestling, this is a physical activity. I mean, again, think of football, think of hockey, you think of anything where there's contact going on. So the notion of it being like somehow, that you don't feel a chop, let's say, no, you feel that when you land on your back, you're going to feel that because that ring is not forgiving at all.
Oh yeah, and I think one thing about me is I've sort of, like I feel like I've sort of got my reputation as, being. I mean, I'm smaller, but I'm tough, and I've been able to overcome many injuries. I take a lot of punishment when I'm there in the ring, and I've always been, that way. Sort of like if you remember that old cartoon when we were kids, that chicken hawk looking for a chicken. I was always a little guy, but wanted to prove my toughness. And so, like this is the perfect sport for me is, getting in there with all these big guys and trying to take them down and taking the best that they have and, keep on fighting. I think it's pretty inspirational. I think the kids love it. The kids at the shows, they see this little guy, he's taking a beating, but he's never giving up, never quitting. Sometimes he'll come out on top, sometimes he won't, but as long as you never quit and never give up, that's what's important.
Yeah, that's true, and that's a life lesson for people. And yeah, I think when kids see that that you just didn't, you got beat down, you just stayed down. It's like, no, you got beat down, and then you got back up, and then you're trying to go, and then you get some offense in, and that that's really how life is, and we all know that. It's like, hey, everything's not always going to go your way, but that's more about how you react to it. Do you get back up or do you not? And
oh yeah, yep, that's exactly it.
Life lessons through lucha. sounds like that should be like a podcast series or something.
Great idea.
There you go. There's a freebie for you.
Trademark in the work. Copyright going.
One thing that we were kind of touching on in the first interview back in April that I wanted to kind of get more into is that you mentioned that so when you started training, it wasn't with Lucha Libre Volcanica, that I wanted to kind of know more like those early days of so how often did you train per week? And then like what kind of things were they having you do when you were like completely green, like you had not done any of this kind of thing?
Oh, so right when I started at Volcanica, I was still in the Army, and that's what made it really rough. But like I said, the first day that I went and I stepped in that ring, I felt it. I knew it. Like I just fell in love. Like the moment I stepped in, it felt comfortable. It felt right. And the first things we started doing was just tumbling, just rolling. And I'd always been an athlete, but never very like limber. I never had that gymnastics type of background or anything like that. And in lucha, it's very similar to a gymnastic feel to where you're doing a lot of acrobatic type movements. And so it started just rolling, and then you slowly progress to taking bumps, and then planchas, which is where you jump and land flat, and then you learn all these basic movements that are precursors for bigger stuff. So like a back plancha is the same movement for patadas, which is a drop kick. And so you're slowly building, you're getting the fundamentals down. You're building to movements. Then you're starting to string your movements together to detalles, which is sequences. and then you just put it all together eventually. And so I was doing 3 to 4 days a week. And I did that for a year before I had my first match. And it was a rough year because I was, like I said, I was in the Army. So I was, working my full day in the Army. The gym was in Renton. I would leave JBLM. If I had time, I would stop by the house and then go. If I was running late, I would just go straight from JBLM straight to the gym in Renton, change, be in the ring for a few hours, Then from there, I'd have to come all the way back up to Tacoma, get home. It'd be late at night already. My wife would be, already having the kids in bed and she's getting ready for bed. I'd grab something to eat real fast and I'd go to bed and have to be right back up not bright and early. We'd be up before the sun, for the Army the next day. But I fell in love with it so much that none of it mattered, and thankfully my wife supported me and, pursuing this dream. So, it was a rough year, but then the first show, it was all worth it. I was so nervous walking out in front of the crowd for the first time, and but it was an amazing experience. My wife walked me to the ring, so it was just a great family moment. Like this whole year's worth of hard work, and then it pays off with a moment that me and my wife will share forever. So.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's so cool that you had your wife walk you to the ring for your first match.
Oh yeah, I mean, to me, lucha libre is all about family. It's all about family. There's so many luchadores you see in Mexico that pass the mask on from generation to generation, and it's the same with my family now as I passed it on to my son who wrestled with me. And maybe one of my other sons will wrestle as well, and hopefully my daughter too.
One thing that I'm curious about, and maybe other people out there are also curious about, like you said, that you're doing all this work, putting in for a year before you even had your first match. Do you know like what Professor Gomez was kind of looking for like when are the wrestlers ready to have that first match in front of an audience?
Well, it's a lot, because when you're out there, you have so many things going on in your head. So, you're working with the other wrestler, you're working the audience, you got to be ready for the unexpected. And so it's Professor Gomez is unbelievable. I cannot tell you like what an amazing professor he is. So the way we did it is we would have sort of practice matches in the gym. So we're training. He would pair us up. We'd have practice matches. And then after a few practice matches, and he's there with his clipboard taking notes. So he's watching us, taking notes. Then we finish, and he'll critique us, tell us what we did right, what we did wrong. And so what he would do is it would be 2 new students, but there would be a veteran working with us to help us put our match together. And so, after we do that a few times, then he knows, okay, you're ready to get in there for real. And so, I mean, it's a great system that he has. He never throws anyone out there that's not ready. And it's a heavy responsibility that we take, because every time we go out there, we're representing, Jose. And that's something everyone takes seriously, because if you go out there, you want to represent Volcanica in the best light, and
Yeah, no, that makes absolute sense. I'm curious, like when you're talking about doing some practice matches, did you ever have a, I don't know if at that point, did you ever have a match against Professor Gomez?
I have actually wrestled the professor numerous times. And when we're in there, I'll tell you, he'll remind you that he is the professor. And so, but he's great. He's great, you know. He's like not quite old enough to be a father figure, but definitely a big brother, you know, one that I love.
Okay, I'm thinking the reason I asked that is thinking about a long time ago. I come across a guy that was an Olympic Taekwondo competitor, and I was working with kids at the time in Seattle, and we were taking our classes down to this community center for PE. And so he was down the training sometimes, and he saw us doing this. So he came over and talked to me one day about how do I feel about Tim doing a unit with my students for free. I'm like, oh, well, this would be a great opportunity. Let me check with the people back at my office, make sure they're okay with it, and if we have to sign off on anything. And we started doing it. And I still remember the time. So I was learning this stuff too, and I'm not very athletic. And I remember he'd always call me up when he needed to demonstrate something. So we must have done, not even 30 seconds of stuff when I was supposedly had some skill underneath my belt against him. And like you just said, and like the professor reminded you like who the professor is. But this instructor, I'm like, I'm not even close. I mean, this is scaring me that I'm here with you right now.
I mean, I'll tell you, yeah. So Jose, I mean, he's got over 30 years of experience, you know, and like I'll never be as good as him, you know, and he'll always be able to, you know, have his way with me when we get in there, you know, and I mean, that's the great thing about him is that he's got so much knowledge, you know, so much skills that he passes on to us. And, you know, I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful that I've met him and, you know, that he's come into our lives because he's treated me like family from day one. And it's really been a special relationship with him. And I mean, he trained me, he trained my son, and you know, I mean, it's like words can't even describe how special that is. You know, I have framed pictures in the house of him and me and my son when my son was little, and then when me and my son were the tag team champions. I mean, that kind of longevity, you know, is just, it doesn't come around that often in life. And, you know, to have that special connection, it's, you know, something that I feel I'm really grateful for, and it's a blessing.
Yeah, that's amazing, and that totally explains, you know, part of the vibe when I was at Evolve watching the different matches of that. And obviously the professor's always there. He's always saying hi to people. He's kind of, you know, shaking hands and doing when he's also making sure the wrestlers are ready in the back. But that it felt like you're so welcome there. It didn't feel like hey, you're an outsider. Are you sure you're a wrestling? It was none of that kind of thing. They welcome somebody who's new.
Oh yeah, like Jose is, I think what he's done here in the Pacific Northwest is, I mean, it's really remarkable. He brought this cultural thing that is, I mean, it's specific, you know, cultural down to Mexico, and he's brought it so like up here to the Pacific Northwest, which, I mean, we're about as isolated as you can be in the United States up here, and to have this, you know, bubble of lucha libre and have it be so popular here, it's really remarkable, and it's an amazing thing that he did, and it just shows you how much he loves lucha libre, and to bring this beautiful sport to the people here in the Pacific Northwest, it's really great.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And just again, from a fan side of things that's been going on, I had to kind of think about how many years I've been able to catch. And I started, you know, late in terms of finding out about Volcanica being in the area. So wow, they've been doing these matches for how long? I'm like, here we are in 2024 and still going strong. And he's, you know, training new wrestlers and working with, you know, veterans and everything in between. And you're right. I mean, if he had not done that, I don't know if if Lucha Libre would be, existing the way it is in this area. I really don't think I don't think it would have been. It would have been just American wrestling stuff going on.
Yeah. And people need a variety.
Yeah, and I'm thinking one of the matches that I saw at Evolve was with Sonico and Ethan HD. Two different styles of wrestling. We got a luchador and we got a more American wrestling style from Ethan. I'd never seen either one of them wrestle. And that match was so freaking hot because Ethan, he was playing up the Rudo so well. I mean, he spit on Sonico. He was just done everything he could. And the audience hated him. But they were the up and down, and the storyline, like, what's going on? There's offense here, there's offense there. Oh, that one, someone's over there, and someone's getting beat over there. Oh, now this one's getting. I mean, it was so evenly done and so brilliant in how they told that story that, the audience was just like ready just to burst. I mean, it was so crazy.
Yeah, those guys are so great. I mean, they're two of the best that'll come from here.
Yeah, and do you find is it a little bit harder when you've had matches when you are working with somebody that's more of an American style wrestler?
It's a little bit of a challenge, because I love lucha so much. I really want to, promote the lucha libre style, but it's very specific. And I've wrestled a lot of guys that have trained, the lucha libre style, and then we'll go work for an American company and put on a good show. Me and Miles DeVille wrestled for SOS, and Miles, he had lived in Mexico for about a year, and so he wanted to do a lucha style match, and so we did that. And but at like some of the American companies that I worked for, what I really like to do is to give their audience something different, so bring my lucha style to their show. So it's not, because I don't work for them all the time, I want to showcase like what I can do, what I can bring to the table to, help promote their company. But it's a different style. Left versus right. I don't know if you noticed the way we lock up. Americans lock up with the left, we lock up with the right. And it just, everything's a little backwards from there. But it's really good if you can do both. And so I'm glad to know that, I can do both styles and I can work with just about anybody. So it gives you more opportunities to be interchangeable that way. And then having the lucha style you can mix in there gives you, a little different flavor to bring some excitement.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm thinking that, and I think if I, as a fan, went to something that was, an American company or promotion that was putting on the event, that if I saw somebody that was advertised as a luchador on the promotional poster or whatever, I want to see that style. I don't want to see them try to turn into an American style wrestler doing moves that I'm like, well, no, there's plenty of other guys on the card and gals that can do that. I want what you do.
Yep, that's exactly my train of thought as well. Is I want to showcase my skills, my flying skills, and that kind of thing. And I'll let the other guys slow it down.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking back to the the days of like WCW when Rey Mysterio first came in, or anybody else that they had just never seen. The American audience had never seen these guys that are high flying and doing all this acrobatic stuff in the ring. They're using these kind of big lumbering American style wrestlers doing things out of like power, not out of grace and everything else. And so it was like, what is this? And it's like, well, no, we want more of that.
Oh yeah, and that's those WCW days. The luchadors were like a star attraction. Like, I mean, I would watch the shows and I couldn't wait for them to come on, because they were like, just excitement, like instant excitement.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to put it. I know for the first time when I started watching that style of wrestling, I'm like, whoa, what is this? And you're right. It's constantly things going on with the spots instead of this whole kind of slow, again, kind of lumbering style that the American things can be. And it's really great that, so I'm kind of jumping ahead, but back when WrestleMania was here in 2003, I want to say, it's WrestleMania 19 here in Seattle. They did fan access, which they still do nowadays. It's like, I think 3 days or 5 sessions or whatever before WrestleMania, pay your money for a ticket. And then you never know who's going to be there at your session. That's the issue. So if you have a favorite wrestler, they may not be there. They might be there on the next day or whatever. So I remember when that was here, I'm like, well, what can I afford? So I bought 2 sessions. That's all I could afford. And I also found out like the 8x10 promos, kind of like what I see kind of in your background there. They didn't have those available for sale. So I'm like, well, wait a minute. So you got to bring your own thing or buy something there that maybe I didn't want to get signed. I wanted those promotional photos. I thought it would be great, look great on my wall. So I bought like a stack of my favorite wrestlers online. And so like Rey Mysterio was one of them. And I'm like, well, if Rey's here, that'd be awesome. I mean, I just love watching him wrestle. And unfortunately, he wasn't at one of my sessions. I did get to see him wrestle and open up WrestleMania though against Matt Hardy and whoever else the other guy was. But there are so many kids that were wearing his mask. So just like he was not something that you saw on the card. I mean, they're just kind of him. He's like his own little island in terms of the style that he did and what he brought, and just the grace and athleticism, just unreal. The stuff that I was got a chance to see in person.
Oh yeah, I mean, the stuff that he was doing was just, I mean, it just took your breath away. You just like, and what's unique about Rey Mysterio also is that like a lot of people started doing the same moves, but nobody had that style. Like nobody had that grace, like while he was flying. And that's one of the things that Professor Gomez really like beat into me, So if you look at a lot of the pictures around flying, it's more, there's more to it than just flying. It's having that style and having that like grace while you're in the air and, making all these movements big and beautiful. It's not just throwing your body and, crashing down into someone. You're literally flying. And that's how you got to think about it is, like if you were a bird or something, how graceful can you be while you're out there flying? If you watch some of the clips from the guys down at CMLL in Mexico, these guys, I mean, it's literally like they're flying. They're just in the air and just so graceful. And I mean, you almost hold your breath because you think like, how are they going to land, and they do it with the greatest of ease. And it's just such a beautiful thing to witness, and that's how I try to make it as well. Professor Gomez, right when I first started training, he looked at me, he looked at my size, and he said, "You're gonna be a high flyer. You gotta be flying." And so, I try to do my best for him.
Yes, and that's a really good point about when you're flying off the top rope, that it's not just jumping off the top rope. It's about how do you look, and it should, like you said, that it should look almost this completely effortless, that you really are like floating before you land down on your opponent. And that's just an indicative of how much someone's been practicing, how much they've been training to make sure that this looks as good as possible. And I think that's something too that there's been times when you see somebody like a wrestler will get like tossed onto the top rope and they have enough balance to actually land on that thing and not fall over or do whatever, that they actually land. I was like, oh my God, how do they land like that? And that's, again, hard work, practicing, a good professor that can tell you how to do it. And when you, maybe this will make it easier if you do it this way. Hey, when you landed there, it still didn't look right. It looked like you're all wobbly or something. So we still we got to work on that some more. And it's again, to entertain the fans. So make us, people like me go, damn.
How did he do that?
Yeah. And then, that's just one piece of all the other pieces that get you caught up in what's going on in the match. Something you had mentioned earlier too about that you want to, and all the wrestlers want to make sure that you're representing Volcanica correctly when you got out there for your first match and subsequent matches. It reminds me, I was just watching this thing on, I think it was on Netflix yesterday, about Ohio Valley Wrestling, which used to be the WWE kind of training ground.
Oh yeah.
And Al Snow is like one of the co-owners, and he talked about the same thing, that I've been in this business for 40 years. You're representing my name when you get out there. So I don't, if you're doing something that I don't approve of, I'm going to let you know immediately, whatever that happens to be, because that reflects back on me, because everybody knows you trained with me.
Yeah. Like, who put this guy out here?
It's really no different when you think about it. It's like when you, if you're a reference for somebody for like a job, let's say, if you give, say, oh yeah, so and so, they're really good. You're gonna have a great time with him or her as an employee, and it turns out that person sucks or whatever, has issues on that job. Those people could be like, who are those references again that spoke highly of you? And if you keep doing goofy things, then it'd be like, yeah, maybe I can't be a reference for you because you're making me look bad now.
Oh yeah.
Very similar. And I know something as I want to get. Oh, wow, we're already an hour into this. Okay. That's always a sign of a good interview, though, if it's just kind of flowing like water. We had talked about last time that you had worked in a music store with your mom, and first concert I believe was Def Leppard, and that kind of got right into my wheelhouse, my own music background. And do you still go to concerts? Are there other concerts over the years that kind of stand out for whatever reason that you've been to?
Oh yeah. So I'm trying to think. I haven't been to one recently, but over the years, let me tell you, used to go to Ozfest. We went to Ozfest a few years in a row. Went and saw, like, Poison was on tour with Cinderella a few years in a row. We did that. Metallica, I've seen Metallica a few times. Once I was as close to the stage as you can get, and the second time I was as far away as you can get. And then here in Seattle, when Guns N' Roses came through a few years back, we went and saw them. When they were reunited with Axl for the first time in a while. Went and saw them. We went to the Sasquatch Festival out here for a few years in a row when they were doing that. And that was, really fun. So, I mean, we've been to concerts. I saw Prince here at the Tacoma Dome when he came. I think it was 2011 or 2012, something like that. And that was an amazing show. I went to see Prince with my mom, like, oh God, what was it, 99 or 2000 in Dallas. I'm from Texas, so of course I saw George Strait at Texas Stadium with my mom, and like, she's the best. When we were little, she just infused so much music into my life or our lives, and I mean, what a great gift to give to somebody, right? My dad too, my dad as well, and it was really great because we took, like, my mom is literally a fan, I feel like, of everything, of every genre of music, like anything. And my dad, he's always been a real soulful person. A lot of country music, big fan of George Jones, those old guys. Loved Percy Sledge, listened to a lot of Percy Sledge growing up, and I still do. And my mom, on the other hand, Journey, Prince, Madonna, like, basically everything. My mom was, and in her house, she had more music than you could ever. I'm not even exaggerating. I was in the Army. I had already left. I'm in the Army. I have a friend, and we were out in the field or something, and just talking. And he told me he's a huge Lou Gramm fan. The lead singer of Foreigner. And I was like, okay, we're just talking, and he loves that song Midnight Blue. And the next weekend, I went back to my mom's house because I was stationed at Fort Hood, and it's only a couple of hours away from where my mom lived. And I was in her spare bedroom where she had all these, like, just the walls were filled with CDs and music. And no joke, she had a Lou Gramm, like, greatest hits, still wrapped in the plastic on her shelf. And she had two of them, and I said, "Hey, Mom, do you want this CD? I got a buddy who's like a huge Luke Graham fan." And she said, "I'll take it," And so I gave it to my buddy, and I said, "Hey, my mom had this on her shelf," and he's like, "What? Like, how does that happen?" But I mean, she was just really the best. I mean, I remember being little, putting on the vinyl records, and she had the big headphones, and I would sit there and like read the lyrics to the songs as I listened, and but just her like introducing music into our lives as young kids. I mean, like I said, it's such a great gift, because I think music is like the language that transcends, every like culture. Music speaks to everybody, and it can always bring you back to a time and a place and a feeling. And so it's just such a great gift that she gave us.
That's a really great way to look at it too, because I think sometimes, including myself, sometimes I forget how fortunate I was that, in my case, my mom, smallest aspect to my dad, of always being music fans themselves. And then that got passed on to me and some of the people around in my circle where I grew up. There was an older friend that he turned me on to some bands too. And it's like, okay. And I'm like, 8 years old, so I don't even know about concerts. I don't know how this stuff works. Or I never was like, hey, I really want to go see Kiss or something. It's like, no, my mom, I think at one point just, hey, we're going to go see Kiss. I'm like, okay, great. And I went outside and played or whatever. And it's like,
yeah,
I was like, all right, I don't know. You're just going to take, you lead, I follow. And like when you're talking about, seeing some of these different concerts over the years, and it absolutely puts you back in that headspace of like, oh, it was like, the late 80s when I saw it, or could have been the 90s or in the 2000s, or who I was with, or if the show was just really, really great. It's like, man, I just having those memories are so precious to me. And, I'm really thankful to, my mom, my dad, and even some of my friends that wanted to go at the time. Nowadays I'm fine with going by myself because I'm used to covering shows by myself, but it's still fun, obviously, when you have more people with you. But, yeah, and then if I talk to somebody else, especially if they're younger and maybe they're just getting into like a Metallica, let's say, they may not be. If you're talking like to a younger person and maybe they've not seen Metallica, and they're going to go see them this summer, when they're here for those the no repeat weekend shows.
Oh yeah, my buddy's a huge Metallica fan. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can tell somebody who's younger, like, well, I saw them on this tour or this tour. There's something like, oh man, what was that like? And that kind of thing. And I still remember, again, the first show I ever saw was Kiss in 1979, and then when that original group members got back together in 1996 for their Union tour, my friend Steve, he was actually at that show in '79. We didn't know each other back then, but he was at the show somewhere else. But we went to the '96 show in the Tacoma Dome. Got there really early, and we see this whole section where our seats are. There's nobody there yet, but two dudes sitting right in the middle of one row. And I remember my friend Steve looked at me and was like, I bet you anything we're sitting right next to those guys. We're like, you think so? You think we're gonna be right next to them? So we're going down the steps and looking at the rows and that kind of thing. Like, oh yeah, that's our row. And there's those guys like, what seat are we? And then we were literally right next to those two young dudes. And my friend, being the way he was pushing me to go forward so that I would be sitting next to these guys. I'm like, yeah, you're a weirdo. And they're, I don't know, probably maybe early 20s. So this is the first time of them seeing Kiss at all. And so I'm like, oh man, I can talk to you about these guys. So we were just kind of talking shop the whole time and what they're in for. And
and that's a great thing about concerts is you make so many friends, and like people that are, into the same kind of thing, same interests, and like it's such a communal feel when you're at a concert,
Yeah, absolutely. And the majority of the people that are there for the exact same reason you're there, because of the band. You want to see them. And I know there's definitely been crossover of fans that go to certain shows that I go to, especially on the heavier side of things, that are at wrestling shows. I've definitely I've seen some guys. I'm like, man, you look familiar. So, I was at that show at El Corazon or whatever. Oh, that's where I saw you at. and then there they are at Evolve, for the wrestling on a Saturday night. But yeah, it's with music and concerts, and like you said, it's something that really is that universal language, as cliche as that sounds. It really is, because you can be somewhere, like I saw Natalia Lafourcade, who's from Mexico, and I've seen her twice, and it was like a transcendent experience, and all her songs are in Spanish. I don't speak Spanish. The majority of the fans are Spanish, are Spanish speaking at least. And it's just such a interesting thing that we could be from different worlds, really, but we all come together when we're there listening to the music.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can I take a quick break real fast?
Absolutely.
Just
No
a
problem.
quick timeout. I'll be back in just one second.
Okay. Yeah, so anybody that's out there, hopefully you're having a great day and enjoying the interview here. And if you missed the part 1 that we did on April 12th, you can always go back to the YouTube channel. It's sitting there to watch. We had a time constraint then, so we agreed that we would come back on and do this one that we're doing today. If you happen to like what any of the interviews that I'm doing, or a certain type of guests, if it's musicians, in this case, wrestling, or actors, you always can let me know. The best way, really, if you have a direct question for me, is to follow me on Instagram as Eclectic Arts Media, and you can just DM me over there. I look at my DMs every day, so I can kind of answer any kind of questions you may have. And I actually have had people that are interested in kind of doing what I've been doing. So they ask me some questions about getting started, or how do I get guests, or how do I book things, or kind of equipment I'm using, because things have definitely changed over the years. So there's definitely been a lot of that. And I like to do things live, obviously doing the live streams, so I can always do a pre-record if I wanted to, and then edit stuff and put it up. I do those when I go in person. Obviously, I don't do live streams then, but these are like any kind of live event, like a concert, like a wrestling match. There's no net. You're out there kind of doing things, and definitely guests will take breaks when they need to, and sometimes technology takes a hiccup, which we actually had one earlier really quickly for like a second, where we both kind of flipped off screen for a bit. But I'm used to doing these, and again, sometimes I've had actually just had a guest that I think we did an interview last year, and they reached out to me about wanting to catch up and talk about what they got going on. I think this summer they're going to be back on tour, so I need to kind of look at my schedule and kind of figure out where things are at. And as I mentioned earlier, if you're really interested in enjoying what you're doing, this service costs me money every month, and so the tips and donations that I mentioned, so Milo was the most recent one, but Stacy actually made a really great donation after the first interview that we had done in April, and then Christopher made a donation third, and then my buddy Cannon made the first donation for 2024. So that all goes right back into what I'm doing. If it's for the streaming service, if it's for the backgrounds, any kind of thing. Hey, and
So sorry about that.
Nope, no problem at all.
And I didn't even mute myself. Sorry.
It's okay. I've done this is number 359 of these live streams. So I've had all kinds of things technically happen. And sometimes, guest has, a package getting delivered. I've had, dogs and cats and kids coming to the screen. I've had all of it. So I've definitely learned how to roll with the punches.
Just like in the ring, something's happening, you got to call the audible.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was kind of talking about during the little break here about. I like being live without a net. I much prefer this type of thing where it's not like I'm going back and editing it all up and then I stick it online for people to watch. It's like, no, this is like if you're there at the conversation and sitting at the table with us having a drink or whatever, and we're just talking. Instead of me like taking things out of context or doing whatever sometimes edits do, it becomes like, no, this is exactly, you're right there. And I don't edit these for further, down the road. So a year from now, somebody watches this to be like, hey, I'm there, checking things out like it was in real time. And I'm kind of curious too, we have at least maybe 14 minutes, that with your mask, and like you said, when you first started out, you had an open mouth, and like now you don't. Do you like have X amount of masks that you use right now when you wrestle, and then you try to figure out how do you want to change it for the down the road, or how do you kind of figure out what you're gonna be wearing?
So it depends on the venue. So I have a few of these, and the old style that I had more of the old style, because they're really expensive. They're expensive to get made. And I mean, that's the tough part. That's the tough part of the business is, and that's if you're going to wear a mask, I mean, they're not cheap, so they're expensive to get made. And, so if the fans can see, like you can see this one, the other one that I have that's in the picture showing right now, same style, just different colors. And so it depends on the venue. Honestly, like if we're going to be outside somewhere, I'll try to wear my older stuff, so if it gets, a little scraped up or something, it's, not as, hurtful. So like the newer stuff, like if I have a brand new mask I've only worn a handful of times, and I want those for like at Snoqualmie. If you look at the picture from the Snoqualmie Casino, I'm wearing my black and gold, and so it's just the mask is the most important thing, and it's expensive, so you don't want to mess it up. And I always, and these masks are so beautiful. They're so beautifully made that I don't even want to wrestle in them sometimes. Like when I get a new one, I just want to put it on and not mess with it at all, because the wear and tear, but I mean, they're just the people that make the mask. I mean, these guys are just it's unbelievable.
Yeah, the artistry that goes into the mask. I mean, you can see it. Just the detail.
It's amazing what they can do. It really is. It's just like every time I get a new one, I'm just blown away and just like, wow, outdid yourself.
And also, like nowadays, you can see like in the background that you have your pants on or your tights on. I know when I first saw you that you were wearing almost like BDU pants.
Yeah,
pants.
I was just wearing the old Vietnam era, camouflage pants, camo pants, the tiger stripe, and that was, like I think we had said before, just I kind of took my military persona and brought it to the ring. And then I had like a million comparisons to Rey Mysterio, because Rey Mysterio did that for a little while in WCW. After he lost his mask, he was wearing the cargo pants, and I had the big tattoo on my back, and like those first few matches, somebody in the crowd would yell Rey Mysterio. And I'm like, no, it's me, Halcon Negro.
That's true. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, I just had a complete image in my head. You have Ray without his mask, and he had camel pants on, and and obviously, you both have ink on you, and I didn't even think about that. But now that you mentioned it, I'm going to be thinking about that.
Yeah, like my very, very first match, somebody on Instagram snapped a picture of me, doing a leapfrog over someone, and the caption that they wrote said, that's Halcon Negro leapfrogging. He's got hops and some sick Ray Jr. style ink or Mysterio style ink. And I was like, oh, I knew that tattoo would come back to haunt me.
And like you mentioned earlier, that you got a chance to be a tag team champions with your son. And I haven't seen your son wrestle. So you have a different name, or is he using your name as well as a junior?
Oh, he's a junior, Halcon Negro Jr. Yeah. So, I mean, how special is that? It's just unbelievable. Unbelievable. And he's a junior in real life also. So it's very fitting.
Okay. And is his mask similar to yours in design as well?
So the old style.
Okay.
And so when I started tagging with him, I just went back to the old style as well. Because I had a couple of those made up, and I had a handful that I hadn't worn yet. And so when he started, we just both went to the old style, because he he wanted to wear the cargo pants as well, the BDU pants. So I said, okay, well, we can go back, we can do the old style. I switched over to this when I became tag partners with Halcon Plata, and he had a mask that was a little more spiky. And so when we decided to partner up, I wanted something, I wanted to change my look as well. And then after I got this, I was just like, oh, this is perfect. This is it. This really, this plus the hair, I love it.
Okay. And have you had, or maybe in the future, will you have a match with your son where you guys are adversarial, that you're not both, one's a good guy, one's a bad guy?
Well, we actually did have one match. We had one match, and I haven't seen any photos from it. It was a couple of years ago at Bad Jimmy's Brewing. And the fans absolutely loved it. They were so into it. It was such a fun match. They were, the fans were yelling for him to clean his room, to do his chores. They were telling me to spank him, send him to his room, send him to the corner. They really got into the father-son aspect, and it was just really awesome. I beat him. I didn't beat him too bad because he's my son, but I let him know, that I'm the dad.
Yeah, you're the senior.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about some of the classic sibling things that have happened during wrestling, whether it's brother versus brother, or even like with Mysterio Jr., with his son Dominic being involved, and
that's what's really amazing to me is I used to tell people, I'm the poor man's Rey Mysterio. The local guy, wrestled with his son, was tag champs with my son, wrestled my son once, so it's
so definitely some parallels there.
Yeah. Only not the money wise. Only not the money and fame, But I mean, I wouldn't change anything. Like the opportunities that I've had in wrestling and just in my life in general. I mean, I tell people all the time, every day of my life is the best day of my life. I've had so many blessings that, I mean, my life is so good, it should be illegal, Like my military career was amazing. My wife, my kids are amazing. Even growing up, I had amazing parents, amazing siblings. It just like my whole life has just been so like one blessing after the next, and I couldn't ask for any more. I mean, one man should not be this lucky.
Well, that's awesome to hear. It's I think something that sometimes it comes up during these interviews that I do about people keeping the perspective on their own life, where things are at, and how good you may have it, and you just don't take the time to realize how good you have it. Clearly you do. You recognize that. It's so easy to get caught up in some of the the other things out in society or just within your own personal professional life. Like, wait a minute, things are actually really good. And just have to acknowledge that fact, and hopefully it spreads to other people that are in your circle.
Oh yeah. When I was getting ready to face Mecha Wolf, all my buddies were like, good luck. And I told them, I said, well, hey, I mean, I'm only getting the opportunity because of you guys. Like all the guys that I trained with, Alan Extreme, Ave Rex, Vispa Dorada, Viento, Halcon Plata, Professor Gomez, like all these guys, they built me up to like what I am, like I'm just the sum of all of them, putting their time and effort into me. And I think that is definitely like what's true in life is, I was only successful in my military career because of the officers I had above me, the soldiers I had below me, and everyone working together, putting in the effort, and it's just a true blessing to be here.
Awesome. Well, Halcon Negro, thank you so much for taking the time again. So we had this part 2. It's been amazing talking with you and learning more, not only about lucha, but also about yourself and your life and times about things. And as you mentioned, May 24th at the UW Seattle campus, we got a lucha match that will be coming up, or not a match, but a card that's coming up, an event. And then there's going to be more things coming in the summer. So if people follow you, like on your Facebook page, which is linked in the YouTube description, they'll get a chance to see some things. And I hope to definitely get out there and watch you wrestle, because I need to. I really want to get out there to watch this again.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be something else. I'm telling you, especially that UW show. That UW show is gonna be just amazing. I'm telling you.
Yeah, and feel free if you see me in the crowd up in the front, if you want to have me grab somebody or throw a chair at somebody.
Oh, I'll be on the lookout. I will be on the lookout to get you in the action.
Awesome. Thank you so much, sir. Have a great afternoon and evening, and I hope to catch up with you soon, perhaps in person.
All righty. Thank you so much for having me. God bless.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.